caring for children has always been one of the deepest and most satisfying things a human being can do. The world is changing, and there's never been a more important time for childcare business owners to start marketing their businesses. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about everything that can help you grow your childcare business and stand out in a crowded market. Welcome to the Childcare Business Growth Podcast. Hey everyone, so I am very excited to have with me today. Now, before I go into this, I just want to point one thing out. I know there is a lot going on in the world right now, but I think there's what Andrew is going to share with us, and I'll introduce Andrew in a second. What I think Andrew's going to share with us is so important that regardless of what's going on in the world right now, it's still so important to be marketing our business. And that's why we decided to not just record this today, but to go live with Andrew. So let me introduce Andrew. Now, Andrew is one of the most leading experts on Walt Disney, okay? He spent most of his life studying and admiring Walt and the things that he's achieved. And I came across Andrew recently from this book, okay? And this book is Walt Disney's Way. And this isn't just about Disney and the impact that Disney has and the great things that they do. This is the best practical guide I've ever seen. You know, all of you that know me know I'm a big fan of Disney anyway, and all the training course I've been on, but this is the most practical guide I've ever seen to taking the strategies that Walt came up with, all those ideas, those concepts he's implemented, and relaying them to your business. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce Andrew today. Andrew, I want to thank you for joining me. I'm very grateful for you taking the time out. I know you're a very busy man. But
yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you for jumping on today. Now, as I said, we weren't originally going to go live, but we thought, I did say at the end, well, let's go live because people need to know this message now. You know, there are all different businesses in different parts of the world right now that still need to market their business regardless of what's going on. So let's jump into the first question, if you don't mind. First, tell me a little bit about how your love of Disney developed in the first place.
Well, for me, it all started when I was at school, young British schoolboy, and around the age of 14, I was badly bullied and, had my head shoved down the toilet and all kinds of nasty things. And, it was a pretty miserable time. And just coincidentally, I was at the doctor's surgery one day for an appointment. And sitting there in the waiting room, I picked up a Reader's Digest magazine, which I'm sure will be familiar to most people. And one of the articles in that Reader's Digest was all about Walt Disney. And of course, I knew who he was, and I of course knew that there were Disney theme parks and so on and movies. But I didn't really know anything more. And this article, as a young schoolboy, just really captured my attention. I was just riveted. And then I got called into the doctors, and so I asked if I could take the magazine, and I sat up that night in bed and read through the whole thing, and it was just absolutely fascinating. And I really resonated with Walt's story because he had a difficult childhood. He was born into quite a poor family, actually, a lot of challenges, and I just connected with him. I really resonated with the story, and it was very inspirational because, of course, to come to see what he had accomplished later in his life. And because of that, for whatever reason, I just latched onto him, and I was sort of just fascinated, and I wanted to learn as much as possible. And I never thought in a million years I'd ever even go to a Disney park. Back then, there was no such thing as even Disneyland Paris. But over the years, I studied him. I read every book on the subject. I watched every documentary, and just really felt like I knew the man. This was the Reader's Digest cover, by the way, which I managed to find a copy a few years ago, which was kind of fun to see that after all those years. That was 1982. And anyway, I just became, a student of Walt and everything that he had done, because he was such a genius marketer. That's what a lot of people don't realize about him. Absolute genius. Not only a visionary, but super smart with business. And that's his original creation, of course, the famous Mickey, who looks a little different back there originally. But anyway, fast forward to today, I decided to spend the last 4 years, almost 4 years, creating the first book for small business owners. Because although there's a lot of books that talk about Disney, there wasn't any that really applied the lessons to the small business owner and entrepreneur. There's books that talk about his life. There's books that talk about that apply the lessons to corporations. And there's, you know, everything else in between. But there wasn't anything for small business owners. So that's what led me to create this one, Walt Disney's Way, which, you know, you very kindly contacted me with some nice words about it the other week, and yeah, and it's been very well received.
It's amazing, guys. Honestly, like Andrew just said, I have so many books on Disney on my shelf over there. Every time I go, I'll get a new book, but I've never seen a book that talks about here's the strategy and how you can implement that into any business, regardless of whether it's to do with children or anything like that at all. It doesn't have to be. And that's what I particularly loved about the book and resonated, and that's why I wanted to reach out to you. So tell us, Andrew, if you don't mind, people are probably wondering, what has the Disney theme parks got to do with childcare businesses in particular?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, because at first glance, it would appear that there's nothing in common other than perhaps, you know, the commonality of serving children. Although Disney, of course, these days is for all ages. But yeah, let's go through that, because this, by the way, I take groups behind the scenes at Disney, which is a lot of fun. That's one of the things I like to do. But let's look at Disney today. They have an annual revenue of $45 billion, billion with a B. So they're one of the most successful companies in the world. And it's by no accident. This is not coincidence. It has been entirely strategic to build this up over the years. And they're also, it's worth noting that they're the fourth most admired company in the world, which is also very significant. So this is a company that we should study, number one, purely because they're one of the most successful and most admired companies in the world. That's a rare combination. So that's the first thing. You know, they deserve studying because of that. And just to sort of further emphasize how successful they are in their niche, if you look at the top 10 theme parks in the world, Disney own 8 of them, 8 of the top theme parks in the entire world. And there's a lot of theme parks. There's hundreds in the entire world. But that, you know, says a lot that they have 8 out of the top 10. So let's get to this question specifically. What does my childcare business have in common with Disney? Well, there's a number of commonalities fundamentally. And this is what I always teach people, is that when we talk about this subject, it's all about adapting lessons from Disney. It's not about saying, well, this is what Disney does and we can directly adopt that in our business. By doing the exact same thing, we can adapt so many lessons. So fundamentally, there's all of these commonalities. First of all, you want to increase your business profits, as does Disney. You want happy customers who return over and over again, as does Disney. You want enthusiastic, engaged, and loyal staff, as does Disney. You face competition, as does Disney. You also have rising costs, as does Disney, and you make mistakes, as does Disney. So fundamentally, there's a lot of commonalities with Disney, because just, you know, on the most basic raw level, all of these things are things that you and Disney have in common. And that's why there's so much to learn, because they do things so well in their business when it comes to marketing, customer service, employee management, and the list goes on. Every aspect of business, they are one of the leading companies in the world. And the fact that they're one of the most admired companies in the world, that's a magic combination. So that's why I thought it'd be nice to share today with you all the 5 magical Disney secrets for improving your childcare business.
Excellent. Now, I am super excited to go through these, because if it was up to me, I would literally go through here and implement every one of these right now. Say, look, let's go through this step by step. But obviously, right now, everyone has a lot of things going on. That's why we said, look, let's focus on the top 5. So take us through, Andrew. I'm excited to hear the top 5. I'm sure we're people watching as well. So let's get started into those top 5 then.
Yeah, let's go through. And I know you don't know what I'm going to say, so feel free to interject. And we can certainly you can highlight specific things, because obviously I don't really know about the childcare business. I've done a little bit of research to prepare for this, but you're the expert, so I'd love to hear how you think this can be adapted too. Is it possible, by the way, Nick, to take off the bottom?
Get rid of our back
there, just to, so we can see the slide. Thanks ever so much. So fundamentally, this is a quote that probably my favorite quote from Walt, because this is at the heart of how he did business. And he said, just fundamentally do what you do so well that that's your customers, will want to see it or come again and bring their friends. Or in this case, in your business, do what you do so well that they'll be happy to send their kids to you over and over again, and recommend that to other parents that they send their kids to you. That was the heart of Disney's message. And of course, he did that so well. So the first lesson is to create an experience. And Disney was so far ahead of his time in this concept of creating an experience. And I'll explain why. Over the last 100 years or so, the Western world has transitioned through 4 distinct economies. And what we mean by that is the way people buy things. So just to sort of, this is really a critical thing to understand. And once you understand it, you'll see why creating an experience is so important. So this information is based on a Harvard Business Review study that was groundbreaking, that came out that revealed this information. And just as a sort of the easiest way that I can explain this is, if you think about needing a cake for some kind of celebration, if we go back 100 years or so, the whole world was basically in what we call the agrarian economy, which comes from the word agriculture. And so the most common approach to having a cake was to purchase the raw ingredients, or even in some cases grow some of those ingredients yourself in your garden, and then create the cake yourself. In other words, you would do everything from creating and sourcing most of the ingredients yourself, growing them, and then actually mixing those ingredients and so on. So that obviously that was very time intensive, but the cost was low because you were doing it. Well, the next progression or stage or phase in the way that people interact with the economy and buy is in the 1950s, we moved into what's known as the industrial economy. And in this period, what the transition was, instead of doing everything ourselves, companies like Betty Crocker in the States would provide these in a box, in a package, a cake mix. And so they would have essentially the raw ingredients of the cake, and then usually the mom of the house would add water and eggs or milk. And so most of the hard work was done. They didn't have to source the ingredients and so on. And this was, it saved people time, and that's why it became popular. So the next phase of the economy was what we call the service economy. And this really transition started in the late 1970s, where it became more popular to outsource the task of baking the cake to someone else. And of course, it meant that you didn't really have to do anything other than order the cake. But of course, the cost was higher because it was completely outsourced. So you can see how we've gone through these various stages of course, this doesn't apply to every single person every single time, but we're talking about generalities that affect the majority of the population. So after the service economy, from around about the 1980s, 90s through to today, is we are now in what's called the experience economy. And so now the most common approach is to not only outsource a cake, but to actually purchase an entire experience. So the cake now is just one part of a memorable experience for whatever the occasion is. So in this case, a kid's birthday party, and you've got the balloons there, you've got the character, you know, got the cake, you maybe got some games and so on. And that is more than ever before, that is what people seek out, is an experience. So we've gone through these different phases, and now we are in the experience economy. That's why Disney was so ahead of his time, because he was in the experience economy from the 1940s and 50s. Yeah. So the key lesson here for all of you is that if your business is still basically just focused on transactions, in other words, here's my childcare business, do you want it or not? You know, I'll look after your children. If it's just transactional, an exchange of a service for money, you're in danger of going extinct, because people more than ever before are expecting a memorable experience. It's this is so excuse me, it's so little understood, but it's so important.
It's a big one for me, Andrew. I talk about this a lot, okay? I always have this concept, my team always hear me say this: raise your hand as high as you can and stretch that bit further. And one of the big things I talk about, think about this: when a parent goes to look around a childcare facility, they're not just coming to look around yours. They're going to visit 2 or 3 others today.
Absolutely.
I've been at one location where a lady openly admitted that she had been to see 18 different childcare facilities before she decided on one.
Wow.
And this is a big point for people to take away from this, because we're always battling against the big corporate chains. Okay, you got those huge sites out there that have, you know, in some cases in the US, 150 locations, 1,500 locations, you know, huge numbers. And how does the little, you know, independent family-run business compete against those? Well, this is one of those fundamental ways that we can compete, because when that parent comes in, rather than just treat them as another parent and just, you know, doing that standard tour around, this is our baby, this is you know, create that experience, make them remember why your facility made them feel special compared to all the other facilities they went to see.
Yeah,
so
100%. You got it. It's such a it's the one of the best ways to stand out from the crowd, for sure. And so this is a sort of a challenge for you watching. Disney parks are a feast for the senses. We all know that. But is that true of your business? And, you know, really, because of the nature of your business, you do actually have an amazing opportunity to create experiences. And I did a little bit of research about this in preparing for this presentation, because I wanted to kind of get the lay of the land in terms of what, you know, sort of an average childcare facility does and what is possible too. And just before I show you that, I wanted to give you a great example from Disney. Now, in the new Star Wars land that they have in Disneyland and at Disney World in Florida, one of the shops there is called Droid Depot. And basically, it's a way for you to create your own droid. So it's a spin-off, basically, of Build-A-Bear concept. So it's Build a Droid, and they called it Droid Depot. Well, let me show you. So keep in mind, this is a store that's the entire purpose of existing is to make money. So it's selling these droids, right? So keep that in mind as I show you how this process works, because it's absolutely genius. So here's the outside themed around Star Wars. And once you go inside, you pick whatever parts you want for your droid in a little basket. And then you go over to an assembly station, and the girl helps you to assemble it all together. Then you test the droid, and then you activate it. You can see the various activation processes there. And then you can test it and with a little remote control, and you can see one running around the store there that's been put together. So you get to choose whatever you want as, you know, to put together that droid. So, I mean, of course, that's an amazing experience. But again, bear in mind, this is a retail store. That's what it is. Its purpose is to sell things. Every single person going into that store is there to buy a droid. And you saw from the line outside, it's extremely popular. So not only that, but it's $100 plus tax for that droid. You have to make a reservation in order to buy, because it's so popular. Now, this is just it's such a great example of what is possible when you create an experience. You know, they could just have had shelves of droids and, you know, like a normal store, and you go in and you pick one, but that's not much of an experience. So and they didn't even invent this concept. They adapted it from Build-A-Bear. Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah. And that's what I love, you know, in the book as well, you talk about the, you know, pioneers of these people that, you know, the inventors, you know, Walt wasn't an inventor, he was an innovator. He took an idea and he adapted that for his business. And
exactly.
there are so many ways that you could take this into your business, right? Let me just give you one example, okay? First of all is the tour. When someone comes around for a tour of your facility, create an experience. What can you do from the moment they walk through the door to the moment they leave? You know, what can you make them feel to think, oh my gosh, that experience was so different to every other childcare business I went to. I want to go there again and do it again. You know, just that one example alone. And then
you're 100% right.
Walk your children every single day. What's that experience like? You know, there's so many opportunities every single day. And this is a big point, Andrew, if you don't mind me just mentioning this one. Now, so many businesses are coming away from customer interaction. Okay, so many businesses are coming away from that. You go to the airport, you've got self-check-in, you've got all these different things right now. You go to the supermarket, you've got self-checkout. But as an industry, you know, Disney, you know, theme parks as a whole, but most importantly, childcare businesses will never ever come away from that interaction. We have the most interactions of any other industry out there. We see a parent at least twice a day, and we spend 8 to 9 hours, even up to 11, 12 hours a day with a child. And we have that opportunity to create that magical experience that they go home every single day talking about that amazing day they had. So I just want to point that out, that it's so many ways you could adapt this into any type of childcare business.
Yeah, I like the example that you gave there. That's brilliant, and it's such an easy way to stand out, because if you treat that visiting parent as a guest, you roll out the red carpet, and it's strategically, you do certain things strategically that are designed in advance. That's how you can stand out from the crowd. So my question for you watching is, what action will you take and implement from this point, number one, in your business? Well, I've got some examples for you. You know, I did some research. This is unacceptable in terms of creating an experience. What you've got here, if you look at it, is essentially what looks like perhaps what was someone's office. The artwork on the wall isn't geared towards kids. You know, there's a plant in the corner. It looks sort of semi-corporate if you look at it. I mean, they've got a few things obviously there for kids, but there's no real theme. There's no, it doesn't look fun. Look at the color of the walls and so on. So there's not a lot of thought that's gone into this. Now, one thing that came to my mind when I was thinking, well, how could you create an experience for childcare? Because I love cruising, I love travel. One of my mind went to how well cruise ships have these, you know, childcare. I don't know what they call them, but like play clubs for kids and so on. They do that so well in creating an experience. Why not learn from them, because they're directly doing it? So here's a few examples for inspiration here. And a couple of things that I want to point out. First of all of these images look fun, right? And there's so much thought that goes into doing it right. So for example, obviously color is one of the more obvious ones, but lighting is a big one. Disney has great attention and care to the type of lighting they use in a facility. There's lighting that can create a very cold, harsh atmosphere in, you know, and the most basic level fluorescent lights, which are, you know, look awful. And there's, on the other end of the spectrum, warm, cozy, inviting lighting. Music is another one. The quality of the furnishings, a lot of soft furnishings and so on. The oversized elements there, like the crayon that's the pillar that's been made into a red crayon. You see that at the bottom there. There's so much here, and I thought, well, this is such a nice example of what's possible. And so, you know, obviously, depending on what facility and space you have, you know, it's going to vary as to what you can do. But why not dream big like Disney did? You know, why not? It's the important part here is, don't accept the status quo and think, well, it's good enough. If you really want to be exceptional and and charge higher prices, which we're going to come on to in a minute. This is the kind of thing that you should think about doing. And none of this actually is going to break the bank. There's lots of ways that you can do it, strategically on a budget. So I just wanted to sort of use this as an opportunity to inspire you to think bigger with the type of experience that you create. And I thought cruise ships were a great example of an industry that do this well, that's very closely associated with childcare.
Yeah, just one thing, Andrew, if you don't mind me just saying that. One thing that's really important, what Andrew just said, is that you don't have to break the bank here. I remember when we first set up our childcare business, we spent so much money on all the resources and everything else.
Yeah.
And I looked at our reception area, and it was all painted fresh, and it just didn't do it for me. It was just too corporate. And all I did at the time to start this, I bought a huge camouflage net. You know, those big camouflage nets. We covered the ceiling in this camouflage. We bought some monkeys, some exotic animals, and a few plants, and we made it into a jungle theme with music playing in the background.
Brilliant.
That was
very creative. Yeah, very creative.
Wow. Every time a parent walks through the door, it's wow. And immediately, as soon as they came through the door, that cost me maybe around $200, something like that. £170. Nothing. Well,
at all. You created an experience, and this is the exact reason why places like Rainforest Cafe that genre of restaurant have become so popular, because it's not just like, let's go and have some food. You're surrounded by the experience. That's why these places have become, that's why they've blown up. Same with Planet Hollywood, the fact that you can see actual movie memorabilia and clothes worn by stars in movies. It's an experience. Okay. So I just wanted to show you that this, of course, I'm applying it to your business, but this is something that I practice what I preach, because I just wanted to show you this, how this can be used in any industry. My background was in TV production originally with the BBC, and in Las Vegas, I took this office building, and you can see, it looks just like an office building because it was, and I transformed it into a TV studio that was experiential. And so here's the control room. Oh, wow. And again, with the elements that I talked about earlier, great design, lighting, use of color, music, things like that. And here's a couple of the sets. And this, again, it's inside an office building, completely different and very experiential. I also did it in Salt Lake City. I took this building here, which was a very plain sort of warehouse, and I transformed it into a studio with a training backlot, which was a conference center that I rented out that was movie themed. And people loved it because, they go on, they search online and they see all these generic hotel rooms that they can use for a conference. And then they see mine, which is a training backlot with movie themed, like with a movie set and movie memorabilia lining the walls and so on. And, the comparison there's no comparison. So this was the website that promoted it. At last, a meeting experience everyone will remember and thank you for. And so that's how I stood out from the crowd, by creating an experience in an industry that's normally very boring. Just a plain, hotel room usually is what is, on offer. So I just wanted to show that as an example.
Excellent. Yeah, and for the thing is as well, guys, we talk about video being very important too. So video, if you can show or give a snippet of what you're doing, just doing some Facebook Lives, showing people around only parts of your facility. Don't ever show the whole thing off straight away. I'll talk about that in another video. But just a snippet of what it looks like. Entice people, give them a snippet, just give them that teaser of what it's going to look like. When Disney ever brings out a new ride, they don't show you the whole ride. They show you snippets to make you want to go there and experience it. Yeah. So again, don't just adapt the experience. Give them a taste of what it's like, of what that experience is going to be like if they come to have a look around your facility too. Okay, so
good point.
What have we got next?
Yeah, so we got number 2 of our 5 points. I mean, there's hundreds in the book, but I just picked out a few to share today. So premium pricing. Now, this is a common misconception or common misunderstanding where people say, that price, they feel that price is very important in their business. But this is what I always say is if everyone bought by price, we'd all be driving a Ford Fiesta, which is obviously not the case. There's every type of car out there imaginable at every type of price point. Some people choose primarily by the look of a car. Some people choose primarily by the practicality of a car. Some people choose based on how many people they have to transport, if it's a family or one person. Some people choose by the speed, and so I could go on and on and on by of the reasons why people buy cars. It is not by price. It's by other reasons, and the same applies to every industry. So first of all, you have to change your mindset to understand this. It's such a critical point that there's so much evidence and proof that price is a very minor aspect for most people. Other factors are more important. So coming to Disney, one of the things that they've done, they started in 2018, was they changed their pricing for the theme parks to a variable pricing model. So now the price ranges from 124 to 159 per day, depending on the demand. So, you know, in the peak season, it's the higher price, and when there's less demand, it's lower. So that's the first point to consider. And also, of course, Disney are known for never discounting and also having premium prices. They're the most expensive theme parks in the world for good reason. Now, I found this fascinating news article related to childcare, just to prove a point to you, that this was in Australia, and there's a childcare center there that charges $165 a day, and with a waiting list of 2 to 3 years to get in. So please don't ever use that argument again of, well, you know, in my area, they're very price sensitive. It's not the case. Some people maybe, yeah, but absolutely not everybody. Think about this, $165 a day and with a waiting list of 2 to 3 years. There's a lot of wealthy people in the world, a lot.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. You know, we've got some clients we speak to that charge expensive rates, but with the greatest respect, sometimes they're no different to, their offering is no different to another facility on the road, but it could easily be tweaked to offer this same level of service or experience quite easily.
Absolutely.
But that, you know, very high price.
And you can see that by the headline, the types of elements that they've included are experiential. You know, the parents would obviously be happy to boast to their friends that their kid goes to a daycare where there's a celebrity chef. Who wouldn't? What parent wouldn't want to boast about that, right? And that's part of why they're obviously doing this.
That's a good point. I know we'll have some kickback. Some people might say, well, my area doesn't allow for this, etc. Look, guys, wherever you are, there's still opportunities to create an experience and to charge a premium price.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's no different to the fact that in your area there's a Ford dealership, there's a Mercedes dealership, there's a Lamborghini dealership, there's a Porsche dealership. It's no different. People, if given a choice, there will always be, you know, typically around 20% of any market that will choose the highest priced offering because they want the best. It's the problem is our mindset. That's what has to be overcome in order to break out of this mold and believe that there are those people out there, because trust me, they are.
Yes, 100% agree.
So again, what action will you take and implement in your business on this point? Well, fundamentally, we looked at 2 points here. The possibility of variable pricing. For example, if you have seasons in the year where there's traditionally less demand for childcare, you could think about doing variable pricing. By the same token, when you're slammed and, you know, there's so much demand, why not charge a higher price during that period? And then the other aspect is at least consider offering a premium price alternative. I don't know your business to the extent of what exactly that could be, but as an example, you know, with, again, you know, bearing that parameter of I don't know the business, but could it be that you could offer a certain type of meal as a premium. I don't know, or customized meals, for example, for vegan or gluten free or whatever. Just an example, but there's
that offer various additional services. They'll offer
Right.
services where actually the margin is significantly higher on those additional things that they offer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a chance there. And just one point I want to touch on there, Andy, if you don't mind. I'm a big believer. We have this big concept in our business is that avoid the drop. What typically happens in a lot of childcare businesses is that they'll naturally have that drop off through the summer, when children leave to the next phase of education. But I'm a big believer in that if we consistently market in our business all the time, parents go back to work all the time. Parents have babies all the time. So I'm a big believer, and our mindset is, we should all be able to avoid that drop. But we can definitely have variable pricing based on age range or based on the pricing based on the additional services that we offer. 100%.
Yeah, I noticed the variable pricing was part of the that Australian one that I featured too. They had a higher price for the younger kids, and then it got cheaper as the kids got older,
based on the age range, etc. as well, less ratios, etc. Yeah.
So hope excuse me.
All right.
I hope that's given you food for thought. Number 3 is, this is a one that Disney does so well, and it's offering unique products and, of course, by extension, services as well. So let's first look at what Disney does, and then we'll look at how we can adapt this same principle in your childcare business. So over the years, and I could pick out many examples of how Disney does this, but this is one example. Over the years, Disney has had a relationship with Coca-Cola, and they've had Coke products in the parks, like the Coke and 7-Up or Sprite, I should say, and, the other Dasani water and so on. Now, about 8 years ago, they had the realization that the problem with selling Coke products is that everybody knows how much a Coke costs, because it's so well known. Everybody knows if they go to the supermarket, it's about $1 or so. And so there was a real price limit, although they stretched it as far as they pushed it as far as they could. They realized they couldn't really go beyond about $4 for, which is a 4 times markup for a Coke in the parks, because there would be too much backlash. People say, well, that's, it's cost $1 at home. So what did they do to overcome this? Well, absolutely brilliant. They did a few things. First of all, in the new Star Wars land, they approached Coke and they said, can you create custom packaging in the theme of Star Wars for that land? And so sure enough, Coke did that. So you can see Coke, Sprite, and Dasani water. The labeling is different, the style is different, and so on. And so what they've created is obviously a unique product. People know the contents of it, but you can't buy this these drinks anywhere else in the world other than in those Disney parks. So it's unique in that sense. That's the only place that you can buy them. And by doing that, there's the line up here. How much do you think they can charge now? It's exactly the same thing, but the packaging is different to make it unique. How much do you think they charge for this?
What, maybe $8 for one of these now?
$7. Yeah. So you're about right. So they essentially doubled their previous maximum just by changing the packaging to make it unique. Isn't that amazing?
That is true.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And not only that, but they've also there's 2 parts to this strategy. The other thing that they've done, and they're doing this now in every new land that they build, is they are always now offering a unique drink that's themed to that land that you cannot buy anywhere else. Now, to give credit where credit's due, Universal was actually the first ones to do this. They did it with the Harry Potter themed land with the butterbeer.
That's it, yeah.
Which was off the charts successful because, of course, everybody had read about butterbeer in the Harry Potter books, and then they could finally taste it. So Disney have adopted that principle themselves. And so here you can see from Star Wars, they've created something called blue milk and green milk, which are a blend of coconut with rice milk. And so it's actually vegan to appeal to, or to have the possibility to appeal to as many people as possible. And so again, they've created this unique drink, and look how much they charge for this. So this, what you see in the picture there, by the way, that's the upsell, which is sort of like the milk bottle, which is a customized thing. But if you just order it in a plastic cup,
wow,
you can see it's $8. Oops, sorry. If you order the upsell, which is in the special customized thing, it's $15. So $8 for something that costs them pennies to make. And they've done it, as another example, they've done it in Cars Land in California. They've done it at the Beauty and the Beast themed area in Magic Kingdom, and they have a pub there called Gaston's Tavern. Yeah. And one of the drinks is called LeFou's Brew, which is again, it's a unique drink that you cannot get anywhere else. So the principle here is to avoid apples to apples comparison. What I mean by that is you want to avoid the situation where someone says or thinks to themselves, even subconsciously, well, essentially all childcare centers are the same. And so it's just like, which one do I pick based on price, right? You want to avoid that situation by creating and offering either unique products or a unique service. In the picture here, you can see popcorn, you can see mugs, you can see other items. If you go into a Disney store, they do not sell anything that you can buy in another store. So in this case, the popcorn is a flavored popcorn that's themed around, in this case, Mickey Mouse, or I think it's Goofy there. I can't really see it close up, but so that's a unique product. They created a unique product, even though everybody knows popcorn. You can't buy that particular shape and size of popcorn of that flavor with that branding. Okay. So any business can adapt this same principle. So with the childcare business, again, the same question: what action will you take and implement from this point in your business? Well, as some examples here, maybe you could add some specialist lessons to separate yourself from the crowd. Maybe you offer some music lessons that others don't. Maybe you offer some foreign language lessons that others don't. I came across a school, a childcare center, whose whole premise is around teaching kids mindfulness. Yeah. And that's their unique source. That's how they have created a unique product or service. There is no other school that they know of that is centered around mindfulness. So for parents where mindfulness is very important to them, it's an easy choice. That's the only, right? And they offer online lessons too. Or it could be regular field trips I'm just giving you examples. Again, I don't know the business, but it's ideas to stimulate your thinking. The point is, if you're just a plain vanilla childcare center, you're obviously going to be compared to everyone else. Yeah. If you add elements that no one else has to create something unique, now you've separated yourself from the crowd, because the parent can't say or think to themselves, well, here's the prices. Oh, but wait, that I can't really apply the comparison to this one because they're also offering these things. It's unique.
Yeah. And this is the greatest respect to people. But when I ask a childcare business, how are you unique? How do you stand out from the competition? Oh, well, it's the type of care we offer, or it's facility. It's not unique enough. And one of the things that we don't advertise a lot in our childcare business until the parent comes in for a tour, we hold it back. But all those jobs that parents typically have to do on a weekend, things like go to the dentist, get an eye checkup, etc., all those things, need their children to have those checkups. Well, we say to parents, we say, hey, all those jobs you have to do on a weekend? You don't have to worry when you come to Fairy Tales Nursery, because we do them all for you during the day.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
It's a great
Brilliant.
concept. Someone could easily copy that. It's not unique to us, but right now, no one in our area, none of our competition is doing anything similar to that.
The sad fact about it is that, as you've probably discovered, even though they could, first of all, there's just not enough awareness, first of all, to even look at what you're doing. And secondly, even if they did, most business owners are too lazy to think, well, let me adapt. I see the benefit to doing that ourselves. So that's such a great example there, Nick, that you've done that. I love that. That's a brilliant use of creating a unique childcare offering.
Okay, so we've got create a unique experience, premium pricing, and we've got the next one there, Andrew. I'm taking this in.
Next one is mind your language. So what do we mean by that? Well, to Walt, the use of language or words was critically important. And you may know that Walt created a language that he used in the business because this is the point. It wasn't just for fun. He wanted staff to think and feel differently about what they do, which was to him putting on a show. He wanted everybody that came into the park to feel as if they had come to a show. So instead of calling everybody employees, he calls them, to this day, cast members. Instead of a visitor, customer, client, he calls them a guest, and so on. You can see them on the screen there. Now, just to take one example there of, instead of using the word visitor, customer, or client, think about what happens in your mind as a business owner and your employees' minds when you force yourself to think of the parents and the children as guests. It's a fundamental difference in the way you do business, if you really take that to heart. Because how do you treat a guest? Don't you roll out the red carpet for them? Don't you think, how can I make them happy? Imagine if the Queen came to visit, for example, or the president. You would treat them differently if they were a guest. A visitor, customer, client, it sounds like it's a number, right? It's one of, it's just someone paying me money. That's why this concept is important. It wasn't just fanciful thinking by Walt. This had a very powerful strategy behind it. So words do matter. And just to think about this again in our business, how we can sort of adapt this principle. These are very common terms. I'll show you what most people say, but what we should say as business owners. So instead of price, what's the price? So when we're talking about the cost of our service, how should we refer to it? Much better to say investment. Why? Because when you use the word investment, it conveys value. It puts into the parents' minds that they are investing because they're going to get something back for their money. If you just say price or cost, it puts the focus on how much is the outlay. Make sense?
100%.
Another word, problem. I hate that word. Isn't it so much better to say challenge? So among your team, among your staff, hey, we have a problem. Isn't it much better to say, hey, there's a challenge? A challenge sounds like, let's get together, we can solve this. Much more positive. Another one is no problem. I hate this when I go into a restaurant and I ask for something and the server says, no problem. It's a pet peeve. It's such a cliche. It's so overused. But if you think about it, why should it have been a problem? They say no problem. Why should it have been a problem? I'm a guest. So I encourage you, I urge you to train your staff and yourself to use the words, you're welcome, or my pleasure. Isn't that so much better? So the person says, thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Or, oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Doesn't that make you feel better?
Yeah. The way those subtle changes that make such a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, words matter. And Walt again was so ahead of his time on this. Instead of sign up. So can we get you to sign up today to bring your kids in? Register. Use the word register or join. It's so much softer. It's not as, sign up sounds like a contract. Excuse me.
I remember this example while you're going to drink there. I remember we went to the Disney Vacation Club experience. We were looking at making an investment.
Yeah.
Recommended I went along to see this experience. And if any of you ever go to Disney World, you go to Orlando, you see this whole experience. It's amazing. There's a creche in the middle of this building, and essentially there are something like 80 clothes rooms. They call all these sales rooms around the outside. The children go to play because they want the children to be occupied. And again, they use this terminology. Can I get you to join today?
Yeah.
Rather than the word sign up, etc. Yeah. It's instilled in every single cast member that works for Disney.
Yeah, these words matter. That's a great example too. Thanks for sharing that. Another one, which is a big one that they train every cast member, is never to say, I don't know. And the reason is because it's frustrating for a parent or a child to interact with you and for your answer to be, I don't know. Why? Because first of all, you should know. It's your business. And if you don't know, you should be able to find out. And so the way that Disney empowers cast members is every cast member is given a cheat sheet that folds up, and they put it in their pocket, and it has all of the department phone numbers on there. It has a map with all the restrooms, and basically every most commonly asked question is on this cheat sheet. And so most questions that they're asked, and the times of the attractions and parades and so on, it's all on there. So most questions that they're asked, they can bring, if they don't know automatically, they can bring out the cheat sheet. Let me have a look for you. And if they don't know still, this is what they're trained to say. Let me find out for you. So again, it's so frustrating as a customer to hear the words, I don't know. Yeah. It's just annoying and it's irritating, and no employee should ever say that, nor any manager. So empower people to say, let me find out if they don't know.
There's one example there. I'm sorry to interrupt. There's one example I want to share with you. I remember being on one of the Disney trainings, and they talked about one of the most commonly asked questions in Disney is, what time is the 2 o'clock parade?
Yeah, that's right.
What time is the 2 o'clock parade? And rather than just looking at them blankly or saying, are you being serious? Or it's 2 o'clock. What they do is they take that answer to the next level. That's and right. The example I remember someone shared with me was, well, the actual parade is at 2 o'clock. Now, let me ask you, where are you going after the parade? Are you going to be, is there a particular ride you have your rides book? Well, in that case, I would recommend the best place for you to stand would be there, etc. They don't just give that standard response. Again, it's raise your hand as high as you can and stretch it that bit further.
That's right.
And there's one example, if you don't mind me also interject on this one, Andrew. There's a big thing, a story I relate to all the time. Every person that comes to your door, every person that rings your business is a potential advocate of your business. So there's an example I always relate to, that a delivery driver came to our door one day and said, I love coming to drop parcels off to you guys because you always give me a drink, you give me some biscuits. Now, I won't use the words that he said about the manager at another facility. He said, whenever I go to this other childcare business down the road, the manager's a right. And now can you imagine, I always give this example. If you're at a family barbecue or weekend, or maybe he turns up and his niece has just had a baby.
Yeah.
Who's going to recommend?
Of course. And
it's, again, that we have to treat every single person that comes to the door, rings the phone, as a potential guest or an advocate of our business. And so I just wanted to add that when I think
it's a great example. And again, that is how Disney operate too. And just as a very quick example, I think I talk more about this in the book. Whenever someone comes in to interview for a job at Disney, they always, it's strategic. They treat them as a guest. And it's so valuable and so important that they do that, because and just as an example, they literally roll out a red carpet. They give them drinks. They treat them as a valued guest, even though they're there to interview for a job. And the reason they do that is because they know that even if someone isn't right for the job, and of whatever happens in that situation, they will at least go away with a very positive experience of Disney and talk well about the company to other people.
Yes, 100%.
And it's so few people get this. It's so important. And I love that example that you gave too about the driver, because who knows who he's going to talk to.
Yeah. And also the staff example you just said there, this is a big thing we come across all the time. People say to me, well, if they want the job, they'll come and get it. Look, you have to stand out. If you want the best team members out there, stop posting average ads. Stop doing the same as what everyone else is doing. Sell the vacancy. Make sure you stand out. Why should someone come and work for your business or the competition? And a lot of people struggle with recruitment, usually because it's not the fact there's a lack of talent out there. It's the lack of the creativity in bringing that person on board in the first place and making them feel they want to be part of your team. That's such a big thing, that it was a mindset shift for me a few years back, that you have to treat your team with the same level of respect, in some respect even greater than your customers or your guests, because those are your biggest advocates at the end of the day.
Great point. So again, what action will you take and implement in your business? Well, again, looking at a number of childcare websites, one of the things that stood out to me that I saw as a very, very common mistake with language that needs to be addressed is this: using the word testimonials. And I understand why people use it, because we're trained to be marketers, and we very much understand that word. But here's the thing: is the average person who we interact with, they don't understand that word. It sounds like a marketing word to them. It sounds like a very corporate word that isn't a word that they would naturally use. So instead of using the word testimonials on your website, I encourage you to use a phrase like, here's what our parents say, or, I couldn't have said it better myself, or something like that, that's friendly, real world language. Because basically when you use the word testimonials, it calls out that word to them, that's sort of a disconnect. And it sort of spoils the flow. So avoid using the word. You can use it when you talk to other, business owners and so on. But on a website, it's not appropriate to use the word testimonials for that reason.
Very good point. Yeah.
So number 5 is empower employees. Again, Disney does this so well, of course. I'll show you why. So this all started with Walt, and another nice quote from him. He said, "You can design and create and build the most wonderful place in the world." He was talking about his theme parks, but it takes people to make the dream a reality. And so a very early example of when Walt realized how important this is was when he started Disneyland. This was in the 1950s, of course. And what happened was when they first opened Disneyland, initially they outsourced the role of the parking. So they hired an outside company to do the parking. And here's what Walt said happened. Quite fascinating. He said, "The first year at Disneyland, I outsourced the parking to a private security company. I soon realized my mistake. They could never understand the concept of hospitality. So I recruited and trained my own people and told them that they're never to consider themselves as cops or security guards. Yes, part of their job involves maintaining order, but here's the point: they are primarily to help and welcome guests." Now, this was Walt in the 1950s. And again, these words reveal his genius, because the average business owner would have gone for efficiency over realizing that what was happening, because this was people's first impression. And it was a disaster, because they were treated like cattle. They weren't welcomed. It was just efficiency, 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 which was the complete opposite of what Walt wanted to accomplish, was for people to have fun.
Yeah.
So he quickly rectified the mistake, and he adopted this last phrase here for the entire business. And from that point onwards, he said that every single person who worked in a theme park, regardless of their role, he said, you are, regardless of your role, your primary role is to help and welcome guests above all else. So if you're a janitor sweeping the streets and someone comes up to you, you don't say, oh, sorry, I'm a janitor, I'll go and see that person. Or if someone goes up to a manager, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm dealing with stock at the moment, could you go and see them? Doesn't happen. Very strategically, it doesn't happen. Everyone knows they're primarily there to help and welcome guests. The other job, that's secondary. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that like a total shift in thinking that is a big part of why they're successful? There's hundreds of reasons why Disney has become successful. I'm just highlighting a few today, but hopefully you can see the very detailed strategy that has gone on behind the scenes here, which most people don't see. They take it for granted, or they think it's coincidence. It's not.
It's a big one for me, Andrew. There's always the example. I remember some of the training we did that, you go in, you spend 8, 9, 10 hours in the park, and you come out of Magic Kingdom at the end of the day, and dad turns and blames mum because dad was the one that lost the car. You can't remember who parked it.
Yeah, often happens.
The way they treat that experience, dad goes over and says, oh, you won't believe this, my wife forgot where she parked. Well, it was actually dad's fault in the first place. And the example I always give there is, when you talk about empowering the team members, one person I remember, I don't know if you're going to talk about this, but I always use this example. They came up with this simple guide. They empowered the team to come up with this simple chart that, okay, at 9 o'clock we park row A, 9 to row B, etc. And they circulate that to the team at the end of the day, because the last thing you want is to come out, have an amazing experience, and then you can't remember where you parked the car. That's the thing you're going to remember. And I always remember that analogy. The same thing here applies to childcare. Here's my scenario. This happens all the time. The reason why most people work in childcare is because they love what they do. They love children developing. They love children taking the next step, saying their first words, etc., etc. But a parent often comes in at the end of the day, tired, worn out, anxious to see their child, feeling guilty that they had to put their child into childcare. They weren't there. What often happens is we give the child an amazing experience throughout the day, and right at the end of the day, two things often happen. They either end up with a snotty nose as the parent walks in, or a piece of clothing has gone missing. And I've seen this time and time again, all around the world, every business I go into. I see and the parent automatically reacts to you straight away. Wow, you've lost my shoe, etc. And the parent is just taken out. It's not about the shoe. It's about the fact that they were not there, and they're releasing that tension on you.
Yeah.
And as a practitioner, someone who's there working that child on a day-to-day, that ruins your whole day, because you were so excited to tell the parent about the amazing day that child had, and the parent comes in and snaps your head off because you ruined it at that last touch point.
Yeah, and brilliant.
This scenario is a great example of how you can relate this point that Andrew's making to your business too. Don't let those touch points let you down at those crucial times.
Yeah, that's such a great example. We could talk for days just on Disney's attention to detail, which is, this sort of encompasses this aspect. But that is such a brilliant example of taking a childcare facility to the next level, because first of all, you've got to be aware enough to understand what those where those big challenges are. And then the next level, of course, is creating a system to make sure that it is resolved in a systemized, organized, efficient way, in a way that can be repeated. So yeah, brilliant. I love that. Here's what Walt said again about employees. He said, first of all, we hire for attitude, not aptitude. So it was never about skills. And he said, as a proof of that, he said, we can teach someone to drive a bus. We can't teach them to smile and be happy. All cast members are trained, here's that phrase again, to be aware that their primary role is always to help the guest. It's Disney's core philosophy is to deliver happiness. And that's one of the ways they do that is in choosing the right people. So, you know, if you've read the book Good to Great, he talks about getting the right people on the bus. It's a central part of you know, the wrong people can totally destroy your business.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, what action will you take and implement in your business on this point? Well, that question is a very important one. Do you have the right people fundamentally? And then secondly, have you empowered them? So it's making the right decisions in the hiring process by design based on what you believe is the most important factors, and then giving them the empowerment to do the right thing. So, you know, like I talked about having the little fold up guide. No cast member needs permission in order to replace spilled drinks, to replace food, to replace a dropped item. They never need to get permission from a manager because it's built into their training that's such a central part of a guest's happiness. Just do it. It costs us pennies. Just do it. Like, as soon as you see someone spill a drink, don't ask, can I replace? Just do it. You know? So that's what I mean by empowering them to do the right thing at the right time. So there's one of my favorite statues in Magic Kingdom there of actually it's in Cinderella's castle in Disneyland. It's Walt with his original creation, Mickey, as a eternal reminder of how it all started. One man with a mouse, and his arm is outstretched as if to say, look, Mickey, look at everything that we've been able to accomplish. And so I hope today has sort of given you a good taste of these, what's possible by looking at Disney and adapting. We talked about creating an experience, premium pricing, offering unique products and services, minding your language, and then empowering your employees. So hope that's been helpful. And I hope you will grab the book with hundreds more lessons like this. And what I've done, Nick, for your members is if they go to this site, the Walt Disney book, there's links there to buy the book from whatever source that they use, like Amazon. But if they then put their code in or their order number from wherever they bought the book, they'll get the audio version, which is me reading the entire book for free. So that's a $47 value, and that's a special offer for your members to because the book I think is only $10, but you'll get the entire. Some people prefer audio, and you'll get to hear me read it in the original tone and everything. So if you prefer that, you'll get that for free with the book.
That's very kind of you, Andrew. Andrew, I'm very, very grateful. So guys, so make sure, look, this book really had a huge impact on your business. So many strategies, concepts you can adapt into your business. So make sure you go to that address, guys, thewaltdisneybook.com. And as Andrew's kindly given us there, is the opportunity to get the audio version for free. Andrew, I am extremely grateful for your time. I know you're a very busy man. You're normally based obviously in the US. I know you're back in the UK right now, but look, guys, there's a huge amount of value here. I could talk to Andrew about this all day. I'm sure if you've got any follow-up questions, send them through to us, and I'll try and arrange some type of follow-up with Andrew as well if you've got anything you want to ask. But make sure you get a copy of this, because I promise you, every single thing in here can be implemented in any business of any size, wherever you are around the world. Andrew, thank you from the bottom of my heart once again. I'm very, very grateful for your time, and I know I got a huge amount from that, and I'm sure lots of others will too. So
I'm glad, happy to be here, and my pleasure. Very, very happy to share this with you.
Thank you, Andrew. I look forward to catching up with you very soon. Thanks, Andrew. See you soon.
See you soon.
We're on a mission to help business owners just like you to get more customers into their businesses and to help you stand out from your competition. If you'd like to find out more about the ways we can help your business, check out our website at childcarebusinessgrowth.com.